I know you've been reading, seeing, and hearing a lot of stories the past several days attributed to Danish sailors, unnamed observers at Italian ports and Spanish harbors, and especially unnamed government officials of my administration. Well, now you're going to hear the facts from a White House source, and you know my name.
You are the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. It is the year 1985 and you are in your second term of your administration. The globe remains in the midst of the Cold War, a period defined by intense political and military rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The presence of communism in South America is particularly concerning. Countries like Cuba and Nicaragua have become focal points for communist expansion, challenging the stability and political dynamics of the region. In your view, Nicaragua in particular presents a significant challenge, with the threat from communist Sandinista forces being considerably detrimental to your nation's regional influence. Across the globe, tensions in the Middle East have boiled over, resulting in the bloody Iran-Iraq war. A war where the civilian death toll would reach 100,000 plus. Saddam Hussein's invasion of Iran amidst its post-revolutionary chaos has plunged the region into protracted conflict, further destabilizing an already turbulent landscape. Now, you are faced with two problems. The first problem being preventing the perceived domino effect of communism throughout South America, specifically countering the rise of communist forces in Nicaragua. And secondly, resolving the Lebanon hostage crisis created by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, a significant actor in the Middle East even to this day, capturing a number of American nationals, which was believed to be an assurance against US retaliation to previous attacks. Now what if you could kill both of these two metaphorical birds with one stone? That stone would be called the Iran-Contra affair. Prior to the revolution and under the rule of Pahlavi, Iran represented a significant regional ally to the US, and as such, it also sourced the majority of its weapons from the United States. The Iranian public's discontent with Pahlavi's rule, among other factors, led to the eventual revolution in 1979 and the replacement of the imperial state by the now Islamic Republic of Iran. The success of the revolution came as a large shock around the world, with the largely secular and pro-Western state being ousted by one that is Islamist and anti-West. This ousting, in combination with the subsequent 1979 Iranian hostage crisis that saw 52 American diplomats be held hostage in Iran for 444 days, led to the eventual severing of diplomatic ties between Iran and the US, as well as the eventual arms export bans under Jimmy Carter. Iran's reliance on US military equipment can be highlighted even 40 years on, with Iran continuing to maintain and utilize significant amounts of United States equipment. In fact, a large portion of Iran's Air Force combat aircraft consist of US McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantoms and F-14 Tomcats. This video from 2023 shows Iran showcasing an impressive new underground aircraft bunker complex, but the jet showcased within the bunker is the US F-4 Phantom Iran acquired over 50 years ago. To the west, in Lebanon, amidst the Lebanese civil war, Hezbollah, an Iranian proxy, had instigated what would come to be known as the Lebanon hostage crisis. Hezbollah had captured 25 American nationals along with 79 other foreign nationals, with the motive being believed to be the prevention of American retaliation to both the US Marine barracks and US embassy bombings that killed a collective 241 Americans. The Reagan administration believed that the easiest way to ensure the release of these hostages would be through influencing Iran to get Hezbollah to release them. That's when an idea was proposed by Iranian arms dealer Mansour Ghorbanifar. Ghorbanifar had convinced some within the Reagan administration that through circumventing the weapons export ban to Iran, exploiting their desperation for US equipment and parts, they could convince them to ensure the release of American hostages from Hezbollah. Through this, Ghorbanifar oversaw the first sales of American arms to Iran. A total of 504 American-made tow-wire-guided anti-tank missiles were delivered before the Iranian proxies released their first American hostage, a missionary by the name of Benjamin Weir. There's also some evidence that weapons deals with Iran took place before the hostage crisis even happened, but in the end, does it really matter? And now, we can go have a look at your other problem, in South America, in Nicaragua. With it being the Cold War and all, one of your primary objectives is undermining communist influence wherever it rears its head. In 1979, Nicaragua, a nation in your direct sphere of influence, saw its government overthrown by a Christian socialist political party known as the Sandinistas. This was of course unacceptable and something needed to be done. Now what would be the best way to rein this in? Of course, through the funding and support of the rival power in the Honduras-based Contra anti-communist forces. But there's just one problem. That being the 1982 and 1984 Boland Amendments. These amendments that restricted any official US government backing of the forces and that were a result of a variety of reasons, including the Contra's extensive involvement in the cocaine trade. But luckily for you, it just so happens that you now have a bunch of money off the books from your under-the-table weapons dealings with Iran. What a fortunate coincidence. Through redirecting this money, you're now able to continue funding the Contra forces without the approval of the pesky Congress. From 1984 to 1986, a total of $36.7 million of funding and military supplies were provided to the Contras, with it all being headed up by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Additionally, it's been alleged by some that the CIA also purchased cocaine from the Contras in order to provide additional funding, but hey, that's just a theory. So how did this all unravel? It all began to fall apart following an IRGC official, Mehdi Hashemi, leaking details of the arrangement regarding the selling of arms to Iran to Lebanese-based magazine Al-Shara. Additionally, the magnitude of the operations dealings with the Contras were further exposed after a US C-123K transport aircraft was shot down over Nicaragua whilst transporting weapons destined to be airdropped to the Contras. A week after the initial leak, Reagan addressed the public, stating the purpose of the operation was to replace the animosity between the US and Iran with a new relationship, ensure Iran agreed to oppose all forms of international terrorism, and to have Iran use its influence to secure the release of the hostages in Lebanon. The scandal was further exacerbated when it was revealed that Oliver North, the head of the operation, had destroyed a multitude of documents relating to the operation, with his secretary Fawn Hall testifying that she had helped North shred official National Security Council documents from the White House. As the scandal progressed, Reagan announced the creation of a special review board known as the Tower Commission to look into the matter. The eventual report heavily criticised multiple actors, including Oliver North and even Reagan himself, but it eventually found that Ronald Reagan did not have the knowledge of the extent of the program. I mean, I trust him, just look at this cutie.
Mr. President, why don't we openly support those 7,000 guerrillas that are in rebellion against it rather than giving aid through covert activity?
Well, because we want to keep on obeying the laws of our country, which we are obeying.
In total, 12 officials were indicted, including Oliver North, who was convicted of illegal gratuity, obstruction of congressional inquiry, and destruction of documents, all of which were later overturned due to a supposed breach of the Fifth Amendment. Following the controversy, Reagan saw the single biggest dip in approval rating in presidential history, dropping from an approval rating of 67 to 46%, but ultimately he left office a fairly popular president. In the end, even those convicted got off fairly scot-free, with H.W. Bush pardoning multiple of those complicit after failing his re-election campaign. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Bang!
Subscribe.